Minnesota. I lived most of my life in the US. I worked for General Mills in sports marketing. And then at 27 years old, I moved to Egypt with my parents. And when I moved to Egypt, I really didn't know the language, didn't have any kind of background of how I was going to do business there. And I wanted to find a job. I wanted to work in brand marketing. I wanted to work at a Coca-Cola, a P&G, a Unilever, a company in Egypt that had American business practices, something I was familiar with living and working in the US. I moved to Egypt and I couldn't find a job, and I got a job as the office manager for a billionaire as a secretary. And I was like, I felt overqualified, that I shouldn't take this role, that I should do something else. And my dad gave me advice, and he said, you should take this role because put your head down, put in the hard work, turn this job into something you want it to become. And I did just that. I read every piece of paper going into the office, coming out, and I spent 4 years with him, went from being his office manager to being his business partner, and launched the sort of the largest IPO in the history of Egypt, the largest acquisition in the history of Egypt, and went on to have a long career in the Middle East, in Egypt and in Dubai. I was the head of communications and public policy at Google. I opened 18 offices for Weber Shandwick in the Middle East, and I launched Netflix in the Middle East and served them for 5 years and worked for the ruler of Dubai. And then in 2020, we all know what happened. It was a pandemic, and I was afraid I would never see my family again who lived in Minnesota. So I decided to come back. At 50 years old, I rewired my life, came back to the US, and really rebuilt my business. I work for some of the biggest names and brands in the world: Gary Vee, Jim Kwik, Deepak Chopra, Halle Berry, Eva Longoria, some other of the clients that I work with. And I help them tell their stories and help them find their narratives. And I wrote a book, which I really want to talk about some of the principles of the book today, that isn't about what I do. It's not about what I do in communications, it's how I do it. And it focuses on the concept of self-reliance. So when you guys hear the term self-reliance, I'm sure you're saying, oh, she's going to preach and tell us that we should be more independent and strong-willed and not need anybody. And that's the opposite of what I'd like you to do. The concept of self-reliance is about investing in yourself. It's about being the most powerful person you can be so you can become valuable to other people. One of the rules is be a value creator. How can you create value for other people? And when you do, you become indispensable to other people. So I always think about asking an open-ended question: how can I help? What can I do to bring value to someone like a Gary Vee or a Deepak Chopra or a Jim Kwik or any of the other big companies we work with? We have to ask that question, how we can help, and listen intently. Anticipate their needs and find out where we can add the most value. And value isn't what I think it's valuable, it's what I think you think it's valuable, and then I really focus on delivering that. Another rule of self-reliance has to do with your reputation. Treat your reputation like a currency. What's its worth, what's its value, and what do you guys do to invest in it? How much time, if you guys can raise your hand, tell me, do you spend thinking about your reputation every single day? Okay, I need you to be obsessed with it. So when you think about the term personal brand, a lot of people say to me, like, Maha, I'm not an influencer. I don't want to build my personal brand. I don't do that. I don't do that content on social media. Take out the word personal brand from your vocabulary and replace it with the word reputation. And don't you want to care about your reputation? It's the only thing you have. Your name is the only thing you actually own. And your personal brand is made up of 3 things: your skills, your experience, and your personality. And it's how you show up in the world. So I want you to think very intentionally about how you're going to build your personal brands, i.e. reputation. If you're an entrepreneur, you need to manage your reputation because you want to attract the right talent. You want to attract the right investors. If you work at a company, your personal brand is who people see you at work. Are you a problem solver? Are you a, team player? Are you a collaborator? Are you a good resourceful person? So think about your reputation very differently, if you can, after this talk today, and what you can do to build it, to grow it, and to invest in it. Another rule of self-reliance is about being a long-term player. How much time can you spend developing relationships and networking? How do you network through social media? How do you network through DMs? And what can you do to put deposits in other people's trust banks? Your network is not there to serve you. You are there to serve your network. So when you come to events like this today, I always like to make a plan. Who can I try to connect with? Who can I try to meet with? And how can I really build the most powerful relationships? Because nobody gets anywhere in life on their own. You need those powerful relationships. 7 rules of self-reliance is about relying on yourself. It's about investing in yourself and owning your future. And a lot of times we think about the stories we tell each other and the narratives we put out there. You guys are one of the biggest, best marketing brands and minds in the world. What's the story you're telling other people? But more importantly, what's the story you're telling yourself? Ladies and gentlemen, thank you so much for your time today. Appreciate you.